Hi there chaps, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I wanted to reimagine the Battlefield single player experience. Now in my opinion, the Battlefield franchise has always been a bit lackluster when it comes to its campaigns, from bugs and glitches in Battlefield 3 and 4's campaigns, to the move to war stories in Battlefield 1 and 5 that, although they did tell compelling stories, never created that overarching narrative that a full-length campaign can do. Now, if you compare Battlefield 4 to Modern Warfare 2, for example, both which released in 2013 and had full-length campaigns, which campaign can you recall better? I mean, I know which one I can. In fact, I think the large majority of gamers can recall, of course, Shepard's betrayal of Ghost and Roach in Modern Warfare 2, a scene that will stick in our minds forever. Whereas Battlefield has never really had that iconic campaign moment. Halo Reach is another FPS shooter out there releasing in 2010 that had plenty of memorable moments. Just remember Noble Six's sacrifice for the safe escape of the Pillar of Autumn from the planet Reach. A great scene if anyone played Halo watching this video. Although you could argue maybe an unfair comparison considering how much lore is around Halo. Yet, this kind of gets to the crux of what I'm getting at here. Battlefield has never really stood out to me when it comes to single player. Halo has its lore and storytelling. Call of Duty provides gritty, action-packed campaigns with some compelling characters, whereas Battlefield never really had that wow factor. Now, you could argue War Stories was it, and I would say War Stories were better than Battlefield 3 and 4's buggy and average campaigns, with War Stories giving us, as a player, almost a historical virtual account of real moments and real people within the grueling First and Second World Wars. But personally, I can imagine bigger and better for Battlefield 6's campaign. And this brings us on to what I imagine for the campaign moving forward. Now, I think we can all agree that DICE excel at creating visually stunning, immersive and large-scale maps in multiplayer, allowing players to roam freely within the confines of those maps. Many describe Battlefield multiplayer's experience as almost like a sandbox experience. I mean, just take a look at some of these maps in Battlefield 5. They are absolutely visually stunning. Now, what I want DICE to do is take what they do best and implement a decision-based, dynamically adjusting sandbox campaign, a wow factor. Now, there's a lot of big words in there, but I'm going to try and break the idea down. Some of it's pretty self-explanatory, some of it we need a little bit more discussion. So, starting off with decision-based, this is quite self-explanatory and I would argue is very popular amongst the gaming community at the moment. Just think the release of Cyberpunk 2077. But what I want the Battlefield campaigns to do is capture the moral complexities of war. In previous campaigns, we've always been set down a predetermined path, giving us little autonomy and thus a feeling of lower responsibility as a player. Not only in Battlefield, but also in kind of past Call of Duty campaigns as well. Now, war, as we all know, can be very complex, and if DICE can capture some of those ambiguities in their storytelling, giving us choices that directly affect how each of us experience the campaign, I think it could lead to something epic. Now, let's just kind of take an example here for the upcoming title Battlefield 6, rumoured to be in modern day, early future. So I'll set the scene. You're part of a US Special Forces team, codenamed Phantom, operating out of a forward operating base in a war-torn city of Bangla. A terrorist operative with vital intel is situated in a nearby safe house. The extraction should result in minimal casualties and has a high probability of success. Yet, a whole platoon of men has gone radio dark 20 minutes ago 15 miles north of your current location, with a last transmission calling for immediate support. A choice has to be made: secure the vital intel with a high probability of success, or help save a platoon of men with a risk of high casualties. Maybe a poor example, as I'm no storyteller, but you get the idea. The end result could actually be the same, with it in fact being the case if you choose to save the platoon. They were protecting an informant with similar intel. which you wouldn't know obviously at the time of decision making. However, this would allow the story to progress down a similar kind of semi-linear line, whilst also giving players choices and consequences for those choices. Think again, Cyberpunk 2077 to some extent. Players get choices and moral dilemmas, but the campaign generally still follows a semi-predetermined route. This way, every player that plays the Battlefield campaign will experience it slightly differently and make different choices. In fact, did you know, this is kind of slightly off topic, but when the Allies broke the German Enigma code during World War II, although they knew when and where the Germans would attack civilian ships, in many cases they chose not to inform those ships as they couldn't run the risk of the Germans realising their code had been broken, thus essentially leaving many Allied ships to perish. These are the kinds of decisions, although sad, Battlefield campaigns should really be capturing and putting on the players' shoulders to contend with. But not only do I want there to be decisions to be made pre-mission, I guess you could say, the campaign should be a dynamically adjusting sandbox. So what do I mean by this? Well, in fact, this is what inspired me to make this video in the first place. I came across a fascinating piece of technology that, although in the early stages of development, allows for the simulation of real-world or imagined war scenarios for the purposes of improving real-world military strategy. Some of the footage is now displaying in the background for you. However, as this technology develops, as it says in the video, it will incorporate dynamically simulated forces that will allow for alternative scenarios to unfold and be tested in real time. So this is the interesting point of this video. So how does this relate to a Battlefield campaign, you may be wondering? So, well, as mentioned earlier, I think what DICE have mastered in their multiplayer element is that sandbox feeling of the maps and the gameplay. The feeling of you can kind of do whatever you want within reason. Or sometimes not within reason. Yeah, I would argue when it comes to their campaigns in the past, they've always felt fairly linear in nature, essentially throwing away what makes Battlefield so great in the single player element of the game. As you can see from some of these clips from Battlefield 4's campaign, generally, as I said, there's a fairly linear path to them. You are given a vehicle for a mission and you're expected to use it, or you're expected to go stealthy and that's it, or it's a guns blazing mission. There's little player control. Essentially what I want the campaign to do is give the player more choice when it comes to the execution of missions. All missions should have options in how they are carried out. Want to go down the main street guns blazing, or take the side streets and buildings for a more stealthy approach? DICE should create these sandbox missions where players can roam more freely within the campaign mission and in turn result in different player experiences again for each mission. Each path then can come with its own risk and rewards using dynamically simulated forces technology which reacts to the player in real time. Pushing up the main street may mean you will be faced with heavier enemy presence, yet this could be balanced by providing you as a player vehicle access and more supplies down the main street, whereas using back alleys may be quicker. However, if you don't kill enemies fast enough, they could radio in AI from other areas of the map like the main street, trapping you in almost a bottleneck, resulting in almost unwinnable fight. The technology may not be there just yet for large-scale smart AI across a sandbox map that can coordinate and use tactics. However, it's an interesting concept, I think, for future Battlefield titles, if not Battlefield 6. Difficulties then could be scaled by allowing AI to deploy smarter and smarter tactics and flanks, rather than just creating more bullet spongy and accurate AI, injecting more variety again into the gameplay. So in summary then, some of this is more conceptual in nature and futuristic, whereas some of it can definitely be implemented into Battlefield 6. I think if DICE can give players more choice fundamentally when it comes to how and what they do in the campaign, capturing the moral complexities of war, that would be a fantastic first start. If then they can create sandbox like single player missions, capitalising on what makes Battlefield multiplayer already so great, allowing us again as players to approach missions in more than one style. And if they can incorporate then more advanced AI, which is the thing that's maybe a little bit more conceptual in nature, and allow the AI to adapt in real time to the player's decision within those sandbox missions, I think the Battlefield single player experience would be well on the way to getting that wow factor I believe it desperately needs. But let me know your thoughts on this idea for a campaign. It's different to what we've ever seen before in terms of Battlefield campaigns, but I think it would make DICE and Battlefield as a franchise stand out, because I really do feel that Battlefield for so long has focused on the multiplayer element, and the single player element has really become quite lackluster, at least compared to its competitors. But let me know in the comments. If you did enjoy this video and analysis, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to hear some more. Thanks for watching as always though. Have a great day everybody, and peace out.